Do you have a brilliant product idea but don't know where to start to get it made? Or are you looking to level up your product but afraid to take it overseas?
If so, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Jackie.
And I'm Erin, and we are
The Sourcing Gals,
your trusted guides to everything you need to know about sourcing, manufacturing, and scaling your product overseas. Whether you are just starting out or you've been making your own product for a while, we are here to help women source products overseas without the overwhelm.
In each episode, we'll share insider tips, actionable strategies, and inspiring stories to help you source more effectively, save time, and boost your profits. Duh! We know how hard it can be to juggle the ins and outs of product development, but don't worry, we've got your back.
So grab a cup of coffee, get comfy, and let's dive into how you can grow your business,
make more money,
and turn your products into profit. Welcome to
The Sourcing Gals. Now let's get started. High five.
Hi.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of
The Sourcing Gals.
Today's going to be a fun one. I'm actually really excited about this one.
I know, me too.
We're calling this Where in the World?
With Carmen Sandiego.
So really, where in the world do you source the products? And then actually where you source it, meaning the country of origin, really does matter.
Yes.
There are countries that specialize in some things that others don't, from quality to quantity to price. So we're going to dig in using some of our own expert knowledge and products that we've sourced ourselves for other customers. And that's about it. So let's get into it.
Yeah. I think we've worked with countless countries.
I could say I probably have worked with 20 countries potentially, but you are the traveling guru.
Each one has just had its own specialty, its own niche that is so important when sourcing a product to make sure it's being made by the experts.
Yeah. I think you might have a default or you might have some ideas of what countries specialize in what things, but when you really dive into it and you start looking at tags, that's like my favorite thing to do when I go shopping. I'm always like, you're a product nerd when the first thing you do is like flip something over or open up a shirt or open up a dress and be like, where was this made? Where was this made? This is so exciting. But there are countries that specialize in certain techniques, in certain fabrications, in certain craftsmanship. And then there's some countries where you can make the same item across the globe, to be honest, but it really comes down to what your needs are. Again, quantity, price, quality. So want to play a little game here? I thought it would be fun today to just like mix it up and start with a game.
Let's play the game. Let's play a game. Let's start with a game.
So I'm going to start with an idea of a product that I have in my mind, and you tell me, where would you source it?
Okay.
So, dun, 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 dun. Welcome to the Where Would You Source It game. Here we go. I have an amazing idea, Erin, for a new charm necklace, right? Charm necklaces are all the rage right now, but I had this innovative idea of how to make it different. But where should I go?
When you say innovative and you say jewelry, I automatically go to China.
Okay.
And I do that because of a lot of the mechanisms that I design that are like very small and very specific and require a lot of deep knowledge, like mechanics of what you're wearing, of the jewelry. I always go to China for that.
Okay, but I hear really scary things in the news about China these days, Erin. Is that really where I should go?
For mechanisms, yes. But if you don't want to be in China, I think that there's a lot of jewelry in other places. India has some very big jewelry. I would go to India if it's something that involves semi-precious stones,
okay,
gold or silver. And then Thailand for sterling silver, or even Italy has a lot of great jewelry. But your price points are going to be, different. So if you want innovation and cost, it's going to be China. If you want unique semi-precious stones, I would go to India or even some Eastern Europe in there.
Okay. That sounds good. Okay.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Okay, great. So talking about looking at tags in the market.
Yes.
I have been doing a lot of research for my new athleisure brand. And I want the best pair of leggings out there.
Okay. Well, I'm also going to send you to China for that, my friend.
No.
Yes.
What about Vietnam? That's the name I see on all my tags.
Yes. A lot of big box retailers use Vietnam. And if you have quantity, you can for sure go to Vietnam. But if you were just starting out, I still highly suggest, even with the tariffs, and apparel has an additional tariff on top of what you hear globally as the 10% that we're at today in the market. So you might be paying 17.5%, for example, or 18.5% for certain apparel items. But even with that said, your fabric is most likely going to come from China. Athleisure fabrics, spandex fabrics, a lot of those are made in China, where the innovation is within yarns and suppliers. And then also your factories in China are going to be willing to start with smaller minimums.
Mhm.
So a Vietnam factory, while some small batch does exist, I'm not saying they don't, it is much more available for you to work out of China, and your fabric is then close by, and you're able to have a factory that might even have their own mill connects with their own, like right even down the street, to be honest. So I would probably launch your athleisure brand out of China. However, if you are really opposed to that, there's a good chance, like I said, your fabric will still come from China, but India, Bangladesh, probably more India will take smaller quantities and they will sew for you. So they'll do your cut and sew, but most likely your fabric is still going to come from another country.
Mhm.
So again, you can look at other countries for the actual manufacturing piece of it, but most likely your fabric's going to come from China. So again, if price is your number one, even with the tariff, I still think China is going to be your better option than something like in India, and China will be faster than India.
Mhm. Yeah, because you're not carting that material halfway across the world.
Exactly. So I would still say China.
Okay.
Okay. So now I'm moving. My accessory business has grown. My charm necklaces are blowing the doors down. It's time to add leather handbags to the mix. So where do I go?
Oh, I love this one. It depends on your price point. What would you like to sell these leather handbags for?
Okay. So
what type of quality of leather handbags? We'll put it that way.
Like, can they be like sub 100?
Sub 100.
Not possible. Okay.
So no. For real leather.
Well, okay. That's a good question. So let's say we're going to do a sub 100 faux leather, and then I want to have a top tier 295 leather, real leather. Let's say we're going to do 2 tiers then.
Okay. Sub 100. I would go to China for PU again, because the faux leather is made in China.
There's a lot of great qualities of faux leather out there, by the way.
A lot of great qualities.
Some you might not even know the difference at first glance, for sure.
Jackie, now I went to a materials market one time in southern China only for faux leather. That is the only thing this materials market sold. This market was bigger than any mall I've been to.
Wow.
I have pictures of it just extending like rows and rows and rows, and it was all just faux leather.
I've also seen recently some plant-based faux leathers coming out. Like there are definitely super eco versions of faux leather coming out as well. Sorry, I digress. But there is something that I saw recently at a trade show. I was like, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Okay, so if you're using faux leather, I would do China all day long. There are a lot of people who do Cambodia, but you have to have very high units. But you can get some decent costing. The last time I ran a cost exercise on it, it was still cheaper to do it out of China for the units we were doing.
Even with the bag tariff.
But bag tariffs are high.
Yes, they're high.
But for your primo, and I wouldn't even say primo, we're talking still sub 500.
Yes.
I would source leather from Italy and I would have it sewn in China. There is an area in southern China where a lot of Italian bag and shoemakers relocated around mid-century. And I wouldn't say mid-century, maybe it was more like 80s. And they have some amazing craftsmanship and leather goods, but the leather out of China, no bueno. I wouldn't do it.
Got it.
It's not as no bueno as the leather out of India, but again, I digress. But, I would get in touch with some of those leather vendors, which you can do at a show, like you mentioned.
Yep.
But I would have my product sewn in China. Now, if you want a $1,000, a $2,000 bag, Italy from top to bottom.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that's great to know. So what do you got for me? What's your next brilliant idea?
I have a fantastic idea. It's summer.
Yes.
Currently.
Summer. Mm-hmm.
You may not be listening to this in the summer, but we currently look like summer if you're watching. It's summer and I've been to the pool a lot and I have a fantastic idea for a gauzy bathing suit cover up.
Amazing. We're definitely going to India for that. Hands down. India, think of artisanal, think of organic, think of handmade. a little bit maybe anthropology
Yes.
inspired.
Yes, that's exactly my inspiration.
Yes, you're going to India for sure. And you're going to find small batch manufacturing. You're going to find linens and gauzes that are available at the market. So you can literally run 100, 500, and then if you're going above that, they'll buy custom for you. But it is a great place to do small batch. It will take you some time. It's going to cost you a little bit more, but that is where you're going to get true cotton that was grown in India, organic grown cotton, really, homegrown, literally. And so I think for any of those, again, organic, gauze, linens, even like when you think about certain laces and crochets that are really handmade, like not machine made, whatnot, not mass manufactured, India is going to be your go-to.
It's interesting you mentioned that handmade piece because I also wanted to have some like beads sewn on.
Oh yes, India is your jam.
It's my jam.
We once made the most amazing beaded handbags for a mass retailer, and they actually are a vendor they're a retailer that sells leather goods. Okay, so like that is their core competency, but they do it out of China. And China was not capable of doing the hand beading. So they came to us and said, hey, we need help with this. And so we took them to India. We even got videos of the women that were sewing the beads on the bags. They were beautiful. So yes, hand beaded work, any type of handwork like that. Even if you want to have a certain dye, like hand dyed, batiqued, block printed, but really have it be authentic and true. Again, the craftsmanship, they're artists there. Like India, think truly artisans. So if that's what you're seeing, again, check your tags when you're out in the market. If there's something that you're just seeing that feels just like this is so beautiful, this has to be handmade, like put the tag. If it's in India, it probably was handmade. So
funny story about that. I did try to get some, an accessories product done in tie-dye. This has been probably 5 or so years ago. And I could not get my China factory to wrap their heads around the tie-dye.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I had to move entire factories for this one product to go get it tie-dyed in India.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because when we would do tie-dye, again, back in the day when I worked for some of the big mass vertical retailers, we were doing it in Honduras. We were doing it in Peru. There's even some, Bangladesh is very close to India. So when you get to a larger mass scale, some of that work can actually be done in Bangladesh. Like there are similar capabilities. But yes, it is a hand done process, right? And every piece is going to look, if you're really doing true tie-dye, not a printed tie-dye.
Well, that's what China was trying to do.
Yes, they're going to try to print
my tie-dye.
Yes, print your tie-dye. And you're like, no. I want it hand knotted and dyed and done. So yes, you're going to India all day long for that.
And I think it's so interesting. This is where I totally nerd out on sourcing and manufacturing is this stuff came about due to like global economics and like the growth of certain countries over others and accessibility to natural resources.
Yes.
We talked about the jewelry in India. That's where I go to get, Amazonite or like a lot of the stones that you see in jewelry that are like, not diamonds, rubies, or sapphires, but like the honed, kind of milky healing stone crystal type jewelry. It's all sourced there. It's all from there.
Like they're mining
it there.
When you think about like a true stone, a real stone in one of your necklaces, your bracelets, someone had to pull that from the earth.
Yeah. The jasper, like it's really fascinating. And the cotton and out of India and things like that.
Yep.
And while other countries had these resources, there were other countries who were building on innovation. Like Italy was a big innovator when it came to plating, like gold plating standards. And that's what's used all over the world now. But all that to say that all of these changes and fluctuations in the world trade economy, that's what honed where we're talking about who's good at what and why. And I think it's fascinating.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting too. People say, well, but can I get it made in a different country? And you can. There are some factories, especially on the apparel side, that will take goods that are not typically their wheelhouse and make it. But again, why wouldn't you want to go to the best place? Like, why wouldn't you want to go to the most skilled sewers, the best, factories with the right machinery to get your product made exactly how you want it done? So are there nuances to what we are saying? Absolutely.
100%.
And you can vet them out. And there are factories that are appearing in different parts of the country. What's interesting, again, speaking of all the global changes happening, even with tariffs, we are seeing a lot of factories that are from China pick up and plant themselves in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, one of my hat factories out of Bangladesh, they are Chinese owned. So, and where I would say if you're going to get headwear done, you go to China all day long. They are the best with headwear. Yes, you can get it done in Vietnam, but you have to have large quantities. So for small batch headwear, China all day long. They have the machinery, the capabilities, the technology. Well, now they know they have that. They're picking it up and planting it in countries where tariffs are different, because in China, there's a 25% hat tariff plus today's 10% on top of that. So that's 35%. But again, in Bangladesh, you need volume. So Bangladesh is not going to be my perfect partner to make 100 hats for me or 500 hats for me. If I have 5,000, 20,000 all day long, I would go to Bangladesh, hands down. But for the meantime, right now, if you're starting out, China, that's where the machinery is. And sometimes that is truly what also dictates, especially in the accessory world. And I know in the jewelry world too, you have to have the machinery to do the product.
Right.
And so you have to go to the country that actually has the machinery.
Has the right machines, which it seems like, well, why wouldn't they all? But so many of these different facets. So I think what's so interesting about it is, like you said, you can go other places, but your units, the cost that you want, how fast you want it, and the expertise you want, those are all the determining factors. And it's not that you couldn't go somewhere else. It's just that you are going to sacrifice one of those things.
Yeah. And even apparel, I know a lot of people will ask, like, I want to be USA made, and they exist. USA factories definitely exist. A lot of them are on the East Coast and the West Coast, a lot in LA. And I've done cost exercises there. I've looked into it for my own personal brand. And it's not to say it's not workable, but for the price point, again, we go back to our framework and talking about starting from the beginning of where do you want your product to fall in the market. I knew if I wanted my pajamas to be accessible to more women at a reasonable price point, I was going to have to go overseas to get them made. That was just the reality. If I wanted to make a couture pajama brand where I'm 150 retail plus, like, yes, I could have afforded to do it here in the US, but that wasn't the intent of my product. So yeah, probably barely is right, and be profitable. But my point is, where your product falls in the market is also going to dictate where you're sourcing it, right? Because there might be multiple countries, but what's your quality level? What's your quantity level? What's your timing? All those things are going to play a role in which country you go to.
Yeah. Just like the Italy handbags. I mean, I would have loved when I was doing handbags to have done it top to bottom in Italy, but I was also working for like a major mall brand, but we could afford to do our leather there. So that was, fascinating process to watch, but, that is actually a good next segue. What has been your most memorable, like, product sighting? What seeing it in the wild, seeing something made, what's been the most memorable for you?
Okay. So seeing it in the wild, that is actually goes back to, again, OG Abercrombie days that we started at together. I had taken a trip to Peru. That's where a lot of, again, great cotton. If you hear the word Pima cotton t-shirts, like really super soft cotton shirts, a lot of it comes from Peru. So we, at that time, were making all of our Hollister t-shirts, a lot of them out of Peru. And so I went down there specifically to approve some of our graphic t-shirts that we were running. And so, and it was very chase, we call it, which means like speed to market, got to go fast. So I had artwork literally in my hands that I was flying on an airplane to go and show them, get approved, get it shipped back. And Peru's also close. So it was like a less than 10-day air transit back to our DC to get it out to the store. So it was really fast. And I remember that trip was one of my first trips to Peru, actually. So there was this overwhelming awe from, my first time seeing a factory in real life, like, holy cow, this is huge. And then seeing how and they took me all the way through. They took me to where the cotton bales are. They took me to the place where the yarn was being knit and it spun and then knit and then cut. And so I got to really see the whole process, which was amazing, and down to the screen print facility. So it was like truly an end-to-end experience for me. And I remember coming home and telling everybody, oh, this trip was great, whatever. And literally within 3-4 weeks, maybe, I'm at the mall and I see a young tween with my shirt, like, on her body. And I'm like, oh, and I remember taking a picture and I was like, this was my shirt. Actually, I lied. I did not take a picture because we did not have cell phones back then. It's so sad to say.
But we did. They just didn't take.
They didn't take pictures. You're right. So I did not take a picture, but in my head, I can still, like, I remember exactly in the mall where I was, like, with that girl wearing my like slogan tee that I went and helped source and produce. So that was definitely like a fun in the wild moment where I actually was there. Like I was literally there as they were dyeing the fabric. And then I saw them like screen printing some of the shirts and moving around. So that was definitely a cool, like product brought to life moment.
What would you say is the most like interesting in terms of like uniquely made or like a cool product to see being made?
Oh my goodness. So my trip to Bangladesh was like nothing I've ever experienced before. Culturally, it was very different from where I come from. It's a Muslim country. There's a lot of things that were happening culturally while I was there. The hospitality was like nothing I've ever experienced before. The way they all treated me and spoke to me. I mean, I was basically a queen there. It was amazing. But the range of products I saw being made in that country. I remember being on the factory floor and there was a guy sitting, weaving a basket for IKEA with his feet, like in his toes and his hand, like that basket is not being made in a machine. Like it is being made, that straw basket that you might have in your, house, or that laundry basket or decorative basket. Like it is made by hand.
And it takes 4 limbs.
I mean, literally all 4. I mean, he had both toes, both hands. So, just seeing something like that just makes you really step back and be like, wow, like the products that we live with and so take advantage of and take for granted. Some of those things are truly being handmade. And even down to they were drying the straw on the roof. Like they brought us up to the roof where they were getting the reeds from the fields, bringing them up on the roof to dry, and then manually, like basically macrame in a sense, like hand macrame these baskets with their hands and feet. So that was wild, amazing.
And it's actually fascinating to think about how regular and how identical those are when you see them at the store.
He had a whole stack next to him that we were all looking at. Like we were literally like jaws on the floor. Like, cause the people that I was traveling with, they had never seen a handmade baskets done either, to be honest. So it was
so cool.
Really cool. Really cool. Definitely a moment I'll never forget. How about yourself? What's
I think that during a trip to India one time, I saw eyelet lace being made, and it was really neat. It was machine done.
Okay.
And it just how I would have never guessed. Like I had no clue how eyelet was made. Like even on the sleeves of the shirt you're wearing. Because it's like, not only is it embroidery, but it's embroidery with a tiny knife that like cuts out the negative space at the same time.
Yeah.
And then lace was actually very similar, embroidery all over a panel, but the panel was like a wash away interlining kind of.
Interesting.
Like, so what you do is they would embroider all over this panel, and then they would wash the panel. And when they washed the panel, the base fabric basically dissolved,
disintegrated,
and it just left behind just the embroidery that had been linked together all over this panel. It created a cotton lace.
Very cool.
It was really, really cool. And I believe at that time we were doing like custom lace, and I think it might have had a moose embroidered in it.
Oh my gosh, no.
I was working in girls at the time, like kids.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine.
So, but that was amazing. And then I mentioned a little bit earlier, Italy, but in Italy, the way the leather is brought in, and this might be a little TMI for some folks, but it's actually like a byproduct of the meat industry. So the hides that came in are from Tyson, like they're from a meat manufacturer,
like
a butcher. Yes. And so they have these pallets that came in from a major meat distributor, and seeing it go through the entire process of turning it into the tannery we were at actually made leather for Chanel, Miu Miu in Italy, and seeing it go from the source nearly to this high gloss red patent leather. It was mind blowing.
Yeah. And I remember also I highly suggest you all Google like a factory line. I know we talked about this in another episode, but if you have not seen, which you probably haven't because it's not a commonly seen thing, especially here in the States, but I would Google like how a t-shirt is made, like Google how is a handbag made, and see the factory line setup. I remember also in Bangladesh, it was the technology that they had built into their factory assembly lines was impressive. Like they had every person, when they were doing that operation, the next person did a quality check. And then if they were having struggles, a flag went up, like a light went on that was like red or yellow or green, saying like, I'm good, or like I have an issue. And then the factory managers were coming and checking and seeing like what was wrong. Is there a machine issue? Is there a workmanship issue? And so the like automation, the systematic, how the quality levels that they had within that process were like really impressive for me. And then also I have a factory in China right now who has automated the moving of the apparel pieces from one sewing machine to the next. Like it's like a conveyor belt line that drops the order of operations. When they're done with 5 of them, they click it, they push a button, and it automatically takes it up and over to the next sewing table. So it's just, there's also a lot of cool technology that they're trying to automate, trying to help with cost, trying to help find ways for human touch to be removed when it can be. So there's just really interesting things. Again, go on YouTube, take a look. There's some really, you're probably going to learn and be mind blown with how many touches go into like the things that we wear and take for granted every day.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. Yeah. And I think the least we can do when we're developing a product is to understand how our product idea, how that piece of leggings or belt or cover up, like how are those things made?
Yeah, because understanding how it's made will help you navigate the conversations with your factory. Understanding why, if you want to change a certain color on something, like, well, what goes into that? Well, if it's a print, for example, they're going to have to burn a screen and grab different ink color and set the whole machine back up, right? So a lot of that learning, and I really applaud A&F, Abercrombie, for sending us out as merchants to see that type of, factory in action, because it educated us so much. Every time we asked a question, every time we needed a revision, we understood all the steps involved in that revision and why, again, now later in life, like, why sample fees exist, right? Like why making a change might take 2 or 3 weeks to get something back. So I just think the more exposure you have, the more you can learn about the actual process of your specific item, the better equipped you'll be to have those conversations, and also a better partner you'll be to your factory. You'll understand why, again, they say something is the way it is. You'll either understand it or you'll be able to be like, no, I know better. Wait, I should be able to push back on this and dig a little further.
I know that a lot of people just want to jump right to the factory sourcing when it comes to making a new product. And we are very, very adamant about starting from the beginning and building a good foundation about the type of brand you want to develop, the type of product, the price point, yada, yada, where you are in the market. And the main reason is because these factories are so specialized. They are specialized in a niche of quantity or a niche of fabric quality, even if it's cotton or if it's gauze or if it's polyester. And so having your idea well thought out is what's going to point you in the right direction when it comes to factory sourcing.
Yeah. And I think a cool thing, even in my latest corporate job, again, new tools that are coming out, even with ChatGPT, I know we've had a couple customers come to us that have said, I do not want it in insert country name, even though I know that's mostly where it's produced. Where else can I go? And it might have been an item that literally we have never done in another country, to be honest. We had only done it out of country A. And we went in chat and I started talking with chat about it. And I was like, hey, I know this is the main country, but like, where else can I go where I can still achieve a certain retail price, this, that, and the other? And it's amazing what they came back with. And we actually did end up vetting some of those countries out and found other good options. And that was literally through chat. And they literally gave me the pro and the con list for each of those countries, those other options, right? It exists, but it's expensive. It exists, but the quality is going to be different, right? And we ended up finding a better fit because, again, there was a staunch no on country A. So we were able to go into that conversation with the client also saying, okay, we have another option, but here's what
Here are the downsides.
Here's what you're going to compromise on, right? And so we found a good place to go. So that was, again, with leveraging an existing tool that we have right now with technology.
Yeah. So you got pointed in the right direction. Exactly. Still, you had to go through the process that we know
Chat
inside.
Didn't give me the factory.
Yes,
but
of course.
It at least led me in the right, again, it gave me some direction and guidance, and then the rest I knew how to do.
Right. So I think that we like to talk about this in the podcast for several reasons. A, like I just said, because those foundational elements of building your product matter when it comes to sourcing, but also because there are a lot of common misconceptions when it comes to certain countries. Everyone just thinks, oh, if you go to China, it's going to be cheap.
Yep.
And that's not quite why. And I think you maybe saw this with the illustration at the top of the episode, but that's not quite why you would rush to a country. Sometimes it is.
Yep.
But really it comes down to who is best at executing this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you might be surprised. I always say, be curious, check your tags,
Check your tags.
do some research. Yeah. Some other common misconceptions I feel like is truly everyone loves a made in Italy tag. You know, speaking of handbags and leather, right? Everyone loves that. But if the price doesn't work for your customer, like that's a non-starter. And again, that's why we go back to saying like that price and where you want to be in the market really matters, because many countries could make that item, but your business, your P&L might not be able to support majority of those countries, to be honest. So that actually reminds me of a client conversation that I had. She had a country that she really wanted to be in. It was actually started in the US, to be honest. And she got her first price quotes back and she's like, Jackie, this isn't sustainable. And I was like, I know we talked about this, but I wanted you to, like, you need to do the exercise and learn that. Right. So now that we're there, like, here's where else we can go. And she has now since found an overseas factory that she feels comfortable with, has seen quality product from. And she's like, guess what? It works with my numbers. So again, your numbers matter. You have to have a profitable business to have a sustainable business. So that is why we really believe in overseas manufacturing. A lot of the times is just going to be the best answer for your business.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you just hit on such a good point with the sustainability of what you're building from a financial standpoint. If it's not healthy, your business will not be healthy.
Yeah.
But also if you are sacrificing how your product's made because you just don't want to be in a particular country, but yet that's where the experts are, then that's a choice.
Correct.
So it really comes down to what you're optimizing for, what your personal preference is. And there are options. You don't have to do just one. There's not a one size fits all.
Correct.
But there will be pros and cons.
Yeah, it is. It's rarely a perfect shoe-in, especially right now with what's happening with the world and tariffs and, political climate. Like there is going to be nuances no matter where you go. There's probably going to be some compromises no matter where you go. So it's just understanding, what are you willing to bend on? What can your business truly afford right now? And how do you, again, build those relationships with those factories to weather the changes that will inevitably continue to happen in this climate that we live in, political climate that we live in.
Yeah. And coming up, I think it's going to be later this summer, but we do have an episode too that hits more on really building a healthy margin so that you can weather those ups and downs of the retail market. But
exactly,
that's for another time. But I think that this is interesting. We wanted to just illustrate to you guys that there are a lot of options when it comes to sourcing your product, various countries, various regions. It all comes down to the material, the cost, the craftsmanship, and time, speed to market. Because, if you get something made in Timbuktu, it will take a long time to get to you.
Yes. So I hope we have given you some valuable insight on finding that perfect country of origin for you. And again, stay tuned. We have a lot more exciting episodes coming up. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop us a comment and be sure to follow, like, and share on Instagram, YouTube, or wherever you are listening to us.
All right, great. Well, we'll see you next time on
The Sourcing Gals.